All right, we are live with Nighthawk and I don't want to say this wrong, Medici Vault.
Sure.
Okay,
Medici.
from Crypto Whale Club. How are you guys doing today?
Good.
Yeah, good, man. Good.
Thanks for having us on.
Appreciate
Yeah,
it.
of course. Thanks for coming on. So what's like the elevator pitch for Crypto Whale Club?
Okay, right into it. I guess we got all the small chat out of the way backstage there the last 20 minutes. Yeah, I can. I guess I could chat about it a little bit, and then we can get into a lot of the mechanics and what have you. Um, well, I think actually maybe useful to give a little bit of history too, just a little background on the project. Medici and I, well, actually, Medici got me into NFTs early this year. I was involved in crypto a little before that, so last year, and he's been involved quite a bit longer, I think, in both. But as we were cruising around and collecting and doing things on these different platforms, we started talking about uh, how it might be a cool concept to combine kind of the two worlds. So crypto with NFTs. It seemed like there would be some strong overlap there and interest. So we came up with this idea of crypto whales and then after that crypto whale club and with the thought that each of these whales, instead of being like different whale types, they would represent different coins or tokens. And so as it stands now, what we're doing is each whale represents one of 20 crypto coins or tokens. And we started working with another friend of ours uh, to do the development piece and the generative art and that kind of stuff. And then we reached out to an artist that we're also friends with and kind of told them about the idea and some of our I guess thoughts around what it might look like. And then they came back actually with a really interesting version where it was the whale head, but then a human body. And so that kind of was the start of the journey there. And then from that point, we put together some lore around how these are Atlantean whales, and back in the day, they had kind of merged with the humans and pulled back from the world. They didn't like where it was going, and now they're re-emerging and gifting their financial technology in the way in the sense of decentralized currency to us. And so that kind of was the initial genesis. And from there, then we obviously started discussing what we wanted to do around the project roadmap and utility to make sure this wasn't just like a PFP project. We've obviously followed a bunch of them and participated in many of them, and wanted to make sure that we weren't just like another kind of flash in the pan. And so from that point, we started putting together what we feel is pretty robust roadmap and utility. And I don't want to necessarily run through the whole thing. You can find it on our Discord, but I can give some high level points if that would be useful to the audience.
Yeah. What are like your favorite items on the roadmap?
Yeah. So we wanted to do a donation charity component, of course, and then we wanted to do like a utility component, and so and we really wanted to make sure that post drop we were still doing things to push the community forward. So kind of I guess three prongs here. We are doing a donation to the EFF. And save the whales, as well as like carbon offset for the project. And then 20% of our secondary revenue is going to a charity of the community's choice. So I would assume that the community votes on something related to the oceans and that kind of thing, but we'll see. Um, with as far as the community wallet and pushing community driven projects, right from the offset of launching the project, we're going to fund the community wallet with 50K, and then we're sending 60% of our secondary sales into the community wallet to make sure that we can kind of maintain a good bank there to fund different ideas that the community comes up with. And then as far as like some of the mechanics and utility we're doing, we've got this burn mechanic where you can take 3 of a certain whale type and burn those to get a gold, and then a couple of the golds to get a diamond, and then you can burn some of the diamonds to get a Moby Dick. And with each of these burn steps, we're going to add this multiplier to these special whales, and I'll talk about why that might be important here in a second. The other piece of utility we're doing is if you collect 1 of each whale type of the 20 and stake them for a period of 30 days, you're going to get a Captain Ahab, and he's going to basically represent all whale types. So now why those two things are important is that post drop we're doing this concept of coin rewards. So it's a weekly reward that'll be 1 ETH, and basically whichever coin did the best that week, the holders of that type of whale, that corresponding type of whale, will be able to share in the 1 ETH reward. So we'll drop them all into a channel, use like a tip bot, that kind of thing. If you have these special whales, so say you burn like 3 ADA whales to get a gold, you're going to have a multiplier on it. And then Ahab will be every coin type. So no matter which coin did best, Ahab will be participating in that weekly reward. And
Whales
I
did you
think
to get to there?
What's that?
How many whales would it take to get to a Captain Ahab?
So we're gonna have you you would have to collect 1 of each whale type.
Okay.
So 20. And we've been trying to figure out ways to make sure that the gas for that isn't a painful experience. So whether we do that on something like Matic, which is a consideration, or we just do more of a hacked kind of manual staking process where we're checking your wallet to make sure that it's delisted. We definitely don't want, with where gas prices kind of have been, we don't want people to have to spend a ton of money to do that. So we'll have a solution here by the time we launch. But yeah, so then you would get this Captain Ahab, and you can use him as basically every coin type, and it'll be a cool piece of art, of course.
Will it also
yeah.
have a multiplier, or will it be like the base rate?
Well,
Applies as all whale types.
It won't have a multiplier, but yes, it'll be basically, it'll have every whale type. So no matter which coin does best that week, the Ahab will be a winner.
Included in it.
It'll be considered as holding that whale type.
That's kind of gamified, because you don't know if like maybe it's better to play the field and get a little bit of everything, or like if you're confident ETH is always going to do the best, just go ham on ETH whales.
Well,
Yeah,
so,
so it's
okay.
I was just going to say what's pretty interesting about that is that it should cause some pretty good secondary activity every week as the week starts getting closer to the end, because it'll be the same time every day, or I'm sorry, every week, same day and time every week that we look at this snapshot and make the announcement. So like as it is closing in on that, people very well could make a run for certain whale types, which will be really interesting to see how that affects the secondary, and if people are pulling their whales off, last minute, or if they're holding them up, and that's the way that they're maybe moving some of these different whales, because each of these different the 20 types, there's going to be different numbers of them, and roughly based off of market cap. So we'll have the most BTC whales followed by ETH, and then some of these smaller whales, like say Polygon or something, will not only be more rare, but also you would have less people that you're splitting these weekly rewards with, especially considering that probably it'll be a good chunk that aren't even participating, who aren't maybe in the Discord or whatever. So if you kind of corner the market on some of these smaller mid cap type whales, you really could start bringing in some revenue each week, depending on how the coin does, of course. But
What were you gonna add, Medici? You're about to say something earlier.
I think it was covered.
Okay. Yeah, that so you said it's gonna be 1 ETH a week divided amongst the holders of that
Of that whale type. Yeah.
whale
And
type.
we're going to do that. We're going to run that for the first year just as a way to, provide incentive to hang on to your whales for that initial year. And then afterwards, we'll probably be pretty deep into some different community projects by that point.
But total of 52 ETH, right? And so if, let's say there's like Luna's a small whale or whatever, and you get one of those, since it's smaller market cap, oftentimes they have the chance to go up the most or down the most. But if it's a good week for crypto and alts, then yeah, it's almost a double reward, right? Because there's the least number of those, at least initially starting, and obviously markets will fluctuate, so that maybe one that's like the 20th whale might become number 10 in market cap, right? And then perhaps those rewards are less frequent for that one once it gets up to number 10, and then something that's at number 10 goes down to number 18, right? So there's a lot of us who are in NFTs came in through trading crypto initially, and so it kind of adds this fun crypto trading element to it, as well as injecting liquidity into different whale types each week, which is so it's a little bit of game theory, a little bit of gamification, and over the course of a year, it's not just like for a few weeks, and so it's not really as worth it. But if you're thinking about, well, if I make the right move now, I can hold this for the next 30 or 40 or 50 weeks, and each time have a better shot than these other guys. Maybe everyone can do their own analysis, right? So that's part of the fun part, and we'll have channels where everyone can kind of talk about their strategies or debate which, whether it's on a weekly basis or kind of long term, which one has the most potential. And so all these kind of elements are ways to for us, we want to engage our community, not just for interactivity and kind of enjoying interacting with each other and talking and so forth, but also for collaboration. And so funding, or number one, voting on, and then number two, funding with the community wallet, projects that members and holders are creating. And to me, that's one of the most exciting things about NFTs and building communities, and then segueing into DAOs and sort of a decentralized startup almost, or brand model. Traditional brands already are starting to partner with some of the bigger NFT collections and projects. And I think having people like two artists with a great, or maybe it's two developers, right? Who it could come from either way. They have an idea, and then kind of recruiting the team from within Crypto Whale holders and our Discord, and getting feedback from everyone, whether it's encouragement or constructive feedback to make it better. And then I don't know if we do it once a week or once a month. We'll see, and we'll probably leave it up for the community to vote on and decide the frequency. But then we'll vote on projects to support, right? And that's both monetarily, as well as the whole community can say, hey, I've got this thing I can do, or something else I can chip in. You want to kind of empower a core team. Let's say at the base level, a designer, maybe it's just an artist, right, and wants to create something. But there's, it could be much bigger than that, right? And the goal is to continue to evolve the ecosystem and add to it, whether that be a game that a couple developers and a designer say, hey, we're going to go build this in the sandbox, and we're going to actually voxelize every single one of the crypto whales, and you can, if your wallet, you connect your wallet to the sandbox, and you can come claim in the sandbox for free, or whatever it is, and then you can race these whales, right? There's like a racing game where they swim through. And so there's things that we're thinking about now that we want to include, like certain attributes that maybe initially will actually even be hidden, until we decide to kind of reveal them, but like speed or agility, or things that could then be used by, down the road by a group of folks from our community to create something off of it. So similar to some of the elements that I think made Loot for Adventure successful, where they kind of created a base foundation and structure, and then encourage the community to build and expand it. And and the community was also not just incentivized by like recognition, like open source, but also there's monetary incentive for them to do well. And I think that's very important. Just artists in general and NFTs. It really, we've broken down a lot of these silos, and it opens up the direct artist or project creator to collector channel, and an outlet for all these creative, brilliant creative people out there to actually get their work in front of the right kind of audience without having to pay 50% of whatever they would make to a gallery or a art dealer, or and it's, I think some aspects of, I know Nighthawk mentioned Kickstarter. I love that, and sort of crowdfunding, and but accelerated, right? And made much more exciting. And we can dive into a bunch of that, but I think maybe just leave it there for now.
So will the developments all be related to the whales, or like some use case for them?
Yeah. So look, I mean, for us, we want to, we're not just looking at the whales as like, hey, we're just dropping 10,000 NFTs and that's it. We want to build an ecosystem around it. We want to be able to, one day have Ray-Bans come to us and say, hey, we want to put Ray-Bans, we want to drop 10,000 Ray-Bans to all your whale holders. And if they post it as their Twitter profile picture wearing the Ray-Bans, they get a free pair of Ray-Bans. Like real value, right, from brands. They're not going to come to us if we're just like, we did one thing and that was it, right? Our goal, and most of the core founding team have previously founded and grown and scaled tech companies in the U.S. and beyond, and raised venture capital, and built communities and product and all those kind of things. And so I think we understand, and we're all very long-term focused, right? You don't start, maybe contrary to popular belief, but startups are a grind. And the first few years of a startup are absolute hell. Like you literally have to sacrifice everything else in your life just to do, focus on one single thing with laser focus to be able to be successful. And, for all of us that DNA has been imprinted for a while now. So we're very
luckily. I will say this really quick. Doing this project has not been hell. It has been a
lot of fun.
A good experience, and like being able to utilize a lot of the I suppose lessons that we've learned over the last year of watching other projects and seeing which ones are successful and why they're successful, and which ones are don't do as well. And some of it comes down to timing of markets, and some of it comes down to just different, I guess, strategies that were implemented. But trying to take all those lessons and apply them here.
Yeah, but ultimately, to us, it's not just about the NFT artwork or the specific NFT you get. What's really incredible to me about NFTs is the communities that they are building, and how they're bringing people together over shared interests or passions, or whatever. And so we're building a community, we're building a brand, and whales need homes, right? We'll have homes for the whales, and ultimately that dovetails into creating a space in the metaverse, whether it's in Somnium space, and all of us have a little whale community, whale city, and buy up some of the land there because the community votes on it, and then we're all like literally, and all these, it's happening, right? Sandboxes, you're bringing in like voxelized assets to Centraland, or partnering with different big projects and getting those avatars or those NFTs compatible, so you can then not just NFTs but also wearables you can put on. And so there's a lot of different kind of events, like when you start thinking about virtual events and experiences, right? People pay for experiences, whether sports games, concerts, going and playing poker and gambling, or whatever it is, right? Going to a bar, all these different things that people pay for in the real world. They're transitioning to be much more accessible and easier and more comfortable and convenient. And, for people who are socially anxious, less anxious, inducing, ways to just go online, and you have your little avatar you're behind, and you can make it look fairly like yourself. And especially like I think Somnium Space is pretty realistic. Each of the different platforms or whatever, have their different selling points. But I mean, the biggest one, Facebook just announced 3 days ago, they're building a massive virtual world. They're partnering with a ton of companies, a ton of brands. I mean, it's Ready Player One is coming, right? They acquired Oculus years ago for this reason, and you're not going to just be able to access it through VR though. You'll be able to access it from your computer because that's billions of people that don't have VR, and so you have to have that on ramp for at least the next 5 years, probably longer.
And like a large percentage of people can't do VR. I know, like
so that's you can't just go straight VR world. It's not a big enough audience. You have to make it accessible, right? So NFTs and virtual worlds, and being able to combine those, and think about all the brands that want you to buy their wearable, to wear their Nike shirt and their, I mean, name a brand, right? There's so many. And, initially in these early days, they'll partner with successful NFT collections. They'll do promotions like Coca-Cola dropped NFTs in Sandbox. I think it was for free, actually. I mean, there's very few people who actually got them. Twitter dropped their NFTs for free, and I think they go for tens of ETH. Very few people got them once again. But think about just how many brands and how many trillions of dollars want to move into this space. Brands are constantly seeking experiential, interactive marketing, and they want user-generated content. So think about, a brand, you equip all these people in the virtual world, and they run around as billboards for you for free. You're just dropping them a free NFT instead of spending a bunch of money to cram ads down people's throats, whether it's online or billboards or whatever that no one cares about. Like you literally, and you can target your audience. And it's just, there's so much more value on that for all of us consumers, but also for the brands. Like, 7x conversion rate of, you see someone else wearing it and you're like, oh, cool, let me check out that brand, versus you just see an ad. And I think 13 or 14% of people trust an ad versus 93% trust a friend or someone they follow on social or in the virtual world, right? So
that reminds me of like where a lot of places will hand out like free stickers, and people put them on like their laptop, and
or your car,
huge.
REI sticker on your car, and it's free advertising, and it's value to, because just like why people buy NFTs a lot of times, they identify with it. There's something in the PFP avatar, in the artwork, that they connect with. Right, just like why someone would put a Patagonia sticker on their car, because they want people to know they're an outdoorsman or outdoorswoman, and that's great. It's all good, and I think it's expression, right? Freedom of expression, and it gives people a way to differentiate themselves and have an identity. And so I think you combine these elements, and it's just like such a massive potential. And then you think about it, we're incredibly early. We're like a fraction of a percent, maybe 0.1% of people actually have NFT wallets and are collecting NFTs. I mean, what is it, like how many Bitcoin wallets are there? 80 million? So 1% of the global population, and I guess maybe 5 billion of the global population have internet connection. And NFTs are much, much earlier than that. And so, we're going to people are going to be saying we're early for the next couple of years. And then we're looking back and say, oh, these guys the year before were so lucky. But then the people the year after them are like, oh, these guys the year before were so lucky, for the next 3 years here. And then maybe we get to a 1% adoption rate, which is nothing. Like it's crazy, right? If you think about that. 50 million NFT wallets is 1% of the 5 billion people in the world that can collect. And within a decade, I think there's 1 billion collectors or more. I mean, think about the brands. You could get a free NFT. All you need is an internet connection to be able to be an NFT collector. So
I was going to say on that note, the recent announcements by both FTX and Coinbase are pretty interesting. How they're now letting their users basically collect from the platform. So that'll be an interesting thing to see develop as kind of a whole new audience who, for whatever reason, didn't want to spin up their own MetaMask or Temple or Phantom wallet or
it's
what
more
have
convenient, you. Right? It's easier. You don't have to have a private key that you have to
You're not transferring assets back and forth. I think that can be a scary thing, when you're sending X amount of ETH or whatever it is, and just like I know that when I send something over to like my MetaMask, I'm like, all right, I'm a little nervous until it shows up because it's just I don't know. It's not that I've actually had issues, but it just if something did happen, there's no way to kind of reclaim it or track it down.
Copy and paste. Simple
So
enough.
yeah, I mean, copy and paste is your friend here, but still, it always is a little bit of a unnerving moment as you're waiting for it to come in.
There's also, they make
But
it easier. I mean, some of these on ramps are being built with like ENS, right? So you can register, um, you know, whatever your name is.
That's what I
And
have for
then,
mine. I have like Sunnyka.eth.
yeah, and then it's much,
I'm always nervous to use it though. I'm like, maybe it's like I missed a step
well,
and it's gonna go somewhere else.
no, as long as you connected it on the back end and so forth. But so, yeah, obviously, like the first time you connect it up, send a $10 test transaction through, make sure it goes through anyway. But I think that
and
helps, right? Like,
pay $50 or pay like $20 in gas for it, or,
yeah,
or
right.
10, 15 anymore, man. It's like I remember doing all the test runs, and now I only do it over on Tezos because ETH is like I'm not spending that much just for a test.
Well, it's the same as the internet, right? In the early days of the internet, the addresses were like IP addresses and server addresses, like in numbers and stuff and dots. And then
Yeah.
DNS came out and said, okay, let's make this more human readable and easier. You could put, the website.com. And then people can more easily type that or remember that. So yeah, right now you copy and paste wallets, you double check in, you're good to go. But the names are coming. I think there's been 3 million signups on Coinbase now for the NFTs. So that definitely shows that people want the convenience and the lowered risk of not having to deal with that. Also, the private key thing, I think, scares some people.
Also, with all the stuff that was happening on Coinbase, where people were sending,
OpenSea.
various actors were sending, or sorry, on OpenSea, where they're sending like Polygon assets, and then you interact with it and get hacked for everything. I think it makes people nervous. There's a lot of scams and a lot of people trying to rip you off in the space, unfortunately. And so coming out of a platform like Coinbase or FTX, I think just adds that enough comfort that they're now willing to perhaps dip their foot in the water.
That's interesting note there. Last comment, least comic standing.
I heard about that.
Good to be aware of that. I have not. I guess it also, that's the other thing, right? If you follow
the last 4
practices on your, like with your email accounts, with your phone, have a SIM card lock, right? That people have to enter a PIN if they can socially engineer a way to like getting someone to transfer your SIM card. If you have like 2FA and you don't write down your password anywhere on your computer or online, and you store everything offline, there's less concern about, well, I guess also just following practice. I suppose you could click on some link in a random email and get malware added to your computer. But so that's the other thing, right? Like there's some folks that probably don't follow the best security practices just in general. And then even if they do it right with their their ETH wallet they create or whatever, to least comics standings point, their computer may be infested with malware already, and that copy paste trick screws them over. So
there's some really clever ones anymore, and often you don't even know until it hits you. But I always do check the last 4 digits just to make sure it's the same. I've heard of that clipboard one as well. Super crafty.
Yeah, pretty sneaky.
Yeah.
The scams keep evolving, right? With the as the ecosystem evolves, there's more and more people. The more value there is to be able to take from it, the more people will try. And so we actually in our Discord channel we have a scam alerts, and like we post stuff like this and just warning people of different scams, because I think it's very important that we're all educating each other, and there's always going to be a new one, and so I think the awareness has to continue to be spread. And if we all kind of look out after each other, then we defeat the scammers. And there's actually one quick anecdotal story I'll tell on the Tezos blockchain, where basically there's not as bad as scammers, but basically these bots that when specific artists would drop, they'd immediately buy them all up, like super quickly. And on Tezos, there's not much gas, and so it's you can juice the fees higher, and it's like $1, and you're blazing fast. And so a couple artists got together. They basically said, okay, let's do a drop, like some really big artists that's basically worthless because we'll have like anyway. And we'll basically juice the price way up for what it should be. So they pump the editions numbers way up. They put the price way up, and they basically figured out exactly to what price the bot would buy up to. And then they literally just sold like 100 versions through to them, and no one's buying it whatsoever because everyone knows about it. And so literally like 100 times 50, right? Just like juice the one bot. And I think they got 2 of them caught up in the honeypot. And so 2 of them came and they were both buying. And then I think they both hit their limits. They bought like 100, and they both one bought 100, one bought 50, and they capped out. But yeah, it's pretty hilarious. The artists made a ton of money, like ridiculous amount of money, like more than they did with any other drop, just for these 2 bots. So it's like, hey, they mint. And the piece specifically, the best part about the piece was a piece that said this. Basically, it was specifically like a artwork that said, "This is a scammer who owns this piece. We're minting this to like." Fuck them, and like there's a honeypot trap, then we got you, motherfucker. And literally, so literally the guy's stuck holding 100 of this, like, it's kind of like a rug, or an NFT on OpenSea 1120 that's not done properly. And it's some NFT, and then they change it to a rug, and everyone's left holding the rug, right? But it was the reverse rug pull because it's on the scammers instead of on the collectors, and so it's just brilliant. It went viral within our at least the Tezos collector community. Everyone loved it. And those guys are blackballed. It's literally, unless they burn all 100 of them, no one's buying from that account. And so it's just like multiple fronts is just brilliant. You'd love to see that.
Yeah, and like nobody's interacting with that account either.
Yeah, it's like like literally everyone that sees it, like they know. And of course it's just like a random address. It's not like a named one. None of the bots are, but everyone knows the address.
Mm-hmm.
It's like it's went down in infamy. But they took a serious loss. Who knows if they can even get their bot operation back up and running after taking a 5,000 Tezos ding. I think this was Tezos like 8, I think, at the time too, almost. And so like 40 grand just like blasted. Yeah,
they did. I mean, it's probably all stolen money anyway.
Yeah, I have no idea about that, but I'm sure there's even people who make money on the crypto pumps, right? They're in these crypto pump groups, and to me that's just trash. Like seeing Shibu Uni or whatever it's called, like in the top 20, it's just like,
yeah,
I don't know. I mean, like Doge, like I actually am okay with, like, I like memes, but a meme of a meme,
Doge is building utility.
It's just like and there's nothing of substance really behind it. There's just a bunch of rabid community members that think, oh, this quick pump, we can make money. But ultimately, those are the kind of companies that bring in the SEC and a lot of regulation and over regulation and over kind of restriction.
I think
that some of those people that jumped in trying to make quick money they end up getting wrecked when it does eventually completely.
So I mean, I think that's the problem with the pump groups. It's the people behind them are the ones who are really making good money, and then
everyone else
the normal buyer who's kind of just getting wrapped up in the scheme is unfortunately the one who usually doesn't do as well. I mean, every now and then you do all right, but
every now and then
generally
off, and people think, oh, this is the case with every one of these, and I should do it, and then they lose a bunch of money, and no one wants to talk about all the money they lost because they're stupid. But they want to talk about the one thing they did well with.
I wouldn't say because they were stupid. I think that there is a learning curve to the space, and it's difficult to when you're first beginning to know what to believe and what not to. It seems like everyone's in crypto for different reasons, but a lot of people are looking at it as an opportunity, and yeah, I mean, I think that those first months that there is some learning. So I mean, I wouldn't say they're stupid. I'd say more they're getting taken advantage of or
Sure.
or, or
Maybe.
tricked or whatever.
Absolutely. And even if you do your research, sometimes it's hard to verify, and people can lie about things and say whatever online. And you may actually even take the time to do the research and make what seems like an informed decision and then get scammed, right?
Yeah,
So
and I think
there's
that
some
it's
of that as
important to make sure that the coins or tokens that you decide to invest in have utility that you can see how that fits into the space. Your anger with Shibu um,
well. I just
is
think it's
around
silly. I'm not like,
a perceived lack of utility, right? I mean, I think what they say is they're the Doge killer, and I forget exactly what they plan to do. I don't know that there's much
but what are you doing? Just
on the
transferring
roadmap.
value like 1,000 others?
Well, I
They
don't
do
know. I don't know that they have
NFT
much
market.
utility at all. And so that's kind of the point I was making is that you want to make sure that the coins you are investing in have utility that you can see how that fits in with the blockchain ecosystem and why that might be a good investment.
But more so the team, right? Like you look at a project
And the
and it's some
team,
random
yeah,
team or
and the
an anonymous
backers.
team, like you got to be super careful. That's got to be a red flag.
But
If it's
that's
like a
another thing
team
that's
of
very
guys that
difficult in the
created several successful startups, have been backed by big VCs in Silicon Valley, you're like, okay, these guys
yeah.
actually know what they're doing. They're actually going to be around. Like it's like this is
Um,
even if it's really small, like that's a project that feels like okay, you did your research. There's actually something behind this.
yeah.
There's just like a
I,
pump and dump of random, who knows, anonymous people. And
I think coin market cap is usually a good kind of first step to check out some of these projects. Obviously, the smaller ones aren't going to necessarily be on there yet, but that one usually gives you some good information on who's behind it, what their vision is. If there are any financial backers. But I mean, it's an interesting point around anonymous teams with in the NFT space as well. And I was just talking to another guy who's got a project about how to try to solve this because a lot of people want to remain semi-anonymous just to not be targeted should the project do well, so they don't have like a target on their back for the hackers and whatever else. But at the same time, uh, you want to know who's behind a project. I think there was I forget which one it was. I don't want to necessarily say the name, but it's one of these projects with with the women, a bunch of female avatars, and I think that I'm not totally sure, but there was a lot of talk about the people behind it. Actually, was like these three Russian guys. These three Russian guys, and people were like, "Wait, these aren't women and women empowerment." And but yeah, no, it's a difficult, I suppose, line to walk between letting people know who you are and your background, and not becoming a target in the space. So,
Or
uh,
they target people with like I don't know. They target people who they think are going to intentionally fall for it. Like one of the projects that I actually fell for that ended up being a scam. It was called Invisible Man, and they were donating a portion of the sale to suicide prevention. And so like that is intentionally, in my opinion, intentionally targeting people that may not have the uh,
it's an emotional trigger, like it's emotional targeting, which is really the worst. Like preying
yeah,
on people's emotions and being like, oh, I really feel for those kind of people. Let me support it. It's interesting because invisible, I kind of get that from the suicide standpoint of like people that feel invisible might feel less excited about life. But just, I mean, and then to think that the project was a scam and the
it's pretty
creator was
low.
invisible and the project ran invisible. It's just, yeah, there's some sick people out there. And I think anyone who's, and some of these scammers, the sad thing is, like, they're pretty smart. Like, and they actually build pretty sophisticated scams. And if they just like put that to good use, like they could do incredible things. Like they could be more successful creating a project, creating a company, creating technology, building actual technology, and then they sell to people to use. And whether it's data or platform or whatever. And it's just, and it makes you wonder, like, what, they think this is the easy route, but like, you can't feel good about yourself, like sleep,
no way.
And so I don't know. It's just unfortunate. It's like they got pushed or influenced in the wrong direction, and then they just never stopped to think about, hey, could I put my talents to good use, like positively, actually, like
Yeah.
creatively here? Anyway, CoinGecko is another one you could check out. They usually have smaller stuff. Like Ash is listed on CoinGecko, but not CoinMarketCap, for example.
I mean, in terms of that, I think a lot of the people that fall for scams, and this is definitely my mindset that leads me to fall for stuff often, is when they're not listed on sites like that. I think I'm going to be the one that got in early, because imagine getting into, I don't even know what to choose, a high cap, large cap crypto before it was even listed on CoinMarketCap or before it was listed on CoinGecko. That would be pretty astounding and like amazing gains. And I think that's like FOMO, or wanting to do the things that other people have done, and the amazing amount of money that some people have made doing that.
Yeah. Tougher these days. I mean, but yeah, there were so many that went 1,000x, 10,000x. I mean, what was Bitcoin now?
Well, I mean, so the problem was in the US, we weren't able to get in on the vast majority of these ICOs that did do that. And
unless you do a VPN, I suppose, huh?
no, even then you can't, because you have to actually prove accredited investor verification, which is like your own, like your personal. You have to have bank accounts or tax records, right, to get in on the. And so it's quite unfortunate, because everyone else around the world, except U.S. and I guess China, made, you had the opportunity, at least back in 2017, to make just ridiculous gains from when you got the ICO to literally, like, first listing, or even just getting on CoinMarketCap, it's like 100x and then 1,000x by the time it lists on any exchange. Yeah, and some of them, of course, didn't always work out that way, but there was a lot that were, were having some huge gain. And now, right, like, it's, ICOs aren't really something that's loud. Now there's like what, IEOs, or exchange listings, or something, like where they list directly onto an exchange, but it's like an ICO, but somehow they're trying to. And then there, what'd you say?
IDOs, where it's
IDOs, yeah, IDOs, and then like what, DuckDAO, and like these different ones, they're then trying to use NFTs as the way to like kind of do an ICO. So to me, it's like too much of a gray area, and so I haven't really gotten involved with any of those. If I wasn't living in the U.S. or like a citizen of the U.S., pay taxes here, and not under their kind of regulation restrictions, I think it's a little easier perhaps to like do some projects, but
there were a lot of those that also, went to zero. So,
tons of
double-edged sword there. I do think KuCoin is probably the one where you have the most access, at least in the U.S.
There's some good stuff.
Got to
KuCoin.
Use at your own risk,
But yeah, I mean, I think it helps. Like, go ahead.
KuCoin was one of the first exchanges to list Binamon, or the BMON token that they have that I was telling you all about before the stream. And I think they're pretty good. I'm not sure how deep their vetting process is, but just from my experience using KuCoin, I've definitely enjoyed it, and it's been awesome to see projects pop up there before pretty much anywhere else.
Yeah. I mean, but yeah, I think if you're willing to take the time to do the research and really dig into these projects at the small stage, you have great opportunities for gains. But they also, of course, are the riskiest, right? They have the least amount of traction so far, but all those kind of things. So it's, I think of course, like I said, it's a double-edged sword, and it comes down to sometimes time, right? Like, to me, unless I have enough time to, and when I say time, I mean to actually ideally try and use their product, right? So there's like basically a crypto credit union out of Africa for Africans, and a lot of these guys that have their local currency can devalue 50-80% in 1 year, right? In South America and some other places too, but essentially a basket of heavy BTC weighted, some stable coins, and then some other top cryptos where they can get out of their local currency denominated into like this, essentially like a crypto credit union, and they earn like a interest on it. It's like you kind of are like staking, ish, but it's a model that's like very easy for first time crypto users, just to like, it's like a one-stop shop. You get some assets in there, you basically buy some ETH or Bitcoin, put it in there, they do all the diversifying and the auto rebalancing and everything. Just like if you're, staking a pair on a balancer or Uniswap and it auto balances, to keep in parity. And so, like I was looking at them and they, they're not listed anywhere. You buy it off like Uniswap or PancakeSwap, but I used their product first and it worked. Right. And like, and some of them will have a demo, like a test net set up. Like there's one called Hedge It, and they're, doing like essentially options or futures, if you will, across all like cryptos, not actual futures, but essentially it's like for like some leverage. And use the product, see if they've actually built something that's working. That's a huge first step. Like that you can actually use it. I mean, that eliminates a ton of these small projects. Number two, look at the founding team. Like I'd have to be a lot more confident on other things I'm checking through if it's an anonymous founding team, or I think it's probably maybe even worse if it's a founding team that doesn't seem to have a super relevant background or a lot of success. It's like, well, just because you're going in blockchain or crypto doesn't mean you're just automatically going to be successful now. Like you're probably going to follow the same trend you've had previously. So that's a big, red flag that's easy to, knock out a bunch of projects off. Finding a good team is the most important thing. If I see a team that's actually had success building and selling startups, it's a huge, huge indicator that they're a much higher probability they're going to do well. If they have some top investors backing them, they raise a little money before going out and saying, okay, let's now put out a coin or a token to start building the community and so forth. It's just a lot more reliable of a signal and a much higher correlation that they're going to get somewhere at least. Even if it's not 1,000x, they're at least going to get somewhere of value where, versus just anyway. So these are you could look at some of these things to de-risk these smaller investments and then at least increase your probability of success. And if 3 of them completely fail, that's fine. If one of them out of the 10 goes, you could have 9 of them completely fail. If one of the 10 goes 1,000x, you're still up 100x, right? Across the board. So it's, it's
so fundamental. I think those are great points, and that's fundamentals investing. Don't just listen to what people are squawking about on Reddit or wherever else.
Yeah.
Now
Trust,
there is
verify.
You pay attention, research the details. There is something to be said about social sentiment. And so I'm not going to say go and jump on something just because there's a lot of hype around it. You want to make sure that it's still covering the basics. But we've seen over the last year how strong social sentiment can be with pushing a price beyond what it, I suppose, reasonably should be. And it's, I would say, somewhat playing with fire, but there is potentially a way to do that correctly if you're if you are very good at it, I suppose. But
depends if you're a shorter term trader in sentiment or longer term. The trend's your friend, right? You can follow the trend until the trend breaks. And if you want to be an active daily trader and trade momentum, you can make money trading momentum 100%, even with absolute garbage underlying it, right? You're just trading off the technicals 100%. There's plenty of trading strategies but I think it's
more
also
difficult, I would say,
whether it's an NFT or a coin or token, at some point, the things that have less substance to them, they will fall much faster, much further, and much harder.
And
unexpectedly, similar to the pace they go up, right? So anything that's going up very quickly, just remember that it's going to come down that quickly too. And if you're not super active, on the, at least hourly, trading, you could get completely crushed, completely.
Yeah, because there's usually a big holder. There's usually a big holder or two that pull out, and then the market drops out.
Or the founder of the project that's just literally, has 70% of it is just dumping all of it and just running. It's
a good point.
It's shameless. I mean, it's terrible to see that in space. But if you look at the internet, we had all sorts of garbage on the internet in the early days of the internet. Bunch of spam, bunch of hackers, bunch of Anyway, the point is, the tens of percent that survive, the 20, 30%, it is really high quality, it is really good. It's the Googles of the world now, right? And so you got to weed through there's diamonds in the rough, basically. And yeah, the problem is it takes a lot of time. And so when people don't have time and get pressed for time, they start trying to make quicker decisions that aren't fully researched out because they don't have the time to do it. And that's, you have to try not to spread yourself too thin, which is an issue I run into every day of like,
well, I mean, everyone in today's world, the time is such a commodity that is in short supply with all the distractions we have and things that are constantly trying to grab at our attention. It's
but limit yourself
broader
to
issue.
so many cryptos only, right?
Yeah.
Instead of trying to have 100 that you're managing, which is just insane, right? It's so much work. Like maybe try to do 20 and then you cycle
or even 5, I mean,
well, sure, there you go. So, yeah, you can even do that. Or same with NFTs, right? Like I think to me, I'm trying to over the next 3 months, my goal is to be more focused on and consolidated into higher quality, longer lasting kind of communities and NFTs, versus things that might be fun or kind of cool or whatever. But if you think, okay, 3 years from now, where's this project at? And if you don't see it, like if you don't see the vision for it, and if the founders of the project and the community aren't like talking about some different plans of where it'll be at, and it's just sort of like just a JPEG, some of those JPEGs are worth a lot because they have historical significance. Some are worth a lot because they did become really big, and as they became bigger, they started adding more value. But some are just kind of like, I don't know if this does have lasting power in the big picture of things, and with millions more NFTs to come. And so I think that's a good assessment, and to think about it and double down on the ones you have more confidence in, right?
Yeah,
that's more money.
I do agree with that, because then you can spend more time in those communities and help shape and form the direction it goes, and really be. And I think that's what a lot of these NFTs come down to is you're part of a community, and that's kind of a cool thing. And as these different metaverses mature, that community moves over into those worlds, and now you're kind of more wandering around your little, I guess, land that you have and your area, and it really becomes like kind of a second home, or at least an extension of your social network. And I do think that's what I think opportunity brought a lot of people into NFTs as far as financial opportunity, investment opportunity. But then I do think the people who have stayed, it's because they have found a sense of community or social fulfillment with some of these different projects. So 100%. Yeah, you want to look for the ones who are planning to have a community long term and really continue to grow. I guess on that note, something I didn't mention earlier, but we post drop, we're hiring a dedicated community manager to not just be us. I mean, because we want to do more of the higher level stuff, pushing the project forward, but someone who's just always in there collecting community feedback, chopping up ideas, and just someone who's just always watching. And you need it's basically an operations person, I suppose, who's got their pulse on what the tribe wants and what the sentiment is towards different things. So
I mean, voted on, right? We have so when you set up a DAO, you can set up all sorts of and there's a lot of really good tools now for governance, and so everyone can come vote. Our initial stages, we're starting to put up polls, and so people can vote on, even before, mid next month when we launch, or when we release the mint. We want community feedback, and we actually incorporate it. Instead of just collect it, like it's something we actually want to incorporate, make things better. Steer it more towards.
And even into some of the some of the suggestions for different types of whales, we've been able to
some of the attributes. Right?
So that's kind of fun.
The pirate Solana whale.
Yeah. Which is,
I think finding a project willing to like listen and actually make changes based on their community's feedback is also a good sign that you're probably not in the hands of a scam. Because
you're not in the hands of an autocrat either. I mean, I think people they want to run their project.
in the
Yeah,
future.
yeah. No, we want to build what our community wants. I think that's an important component of having a good community is to listen to your community. And for us, I mean, what's good is basically what the community wants. I mean, that's what we'll build.
Yep.
It just makes sense. So yeah, and with the DAO stuff, it really is too bad. We wanted to do a lot with that, and you have to be a little careful now with kind of what has happened with DAO Turtles and some of these other projects. You just got to be a little careful to be within the boundaries of what I guess the SEC and by extension OpenSea will allow. Because I imagine you guys saw they've shut down a couple different projects who talk about passive income and revenue sharing with holders and that kind of stuff. Apparently, that's a pretty big no because you start getting looked at as a security instead of a piece of art.
You can't pass through income essentially to all holders or investment interests, so to speak. But if you look at well, like for example, like zombie toads or mutant cats. So the way their DAO works is you buy, let's say, a mutant cat, and the DAO, the mutant cat DAO, holds actual cool cat NFTs, and they actually just bought a Fidenza yesterday. Some others, not so they're actually diversifying, and so that's the one that's really interesting to me to see. So far that they haven't had any issues, but essentially then as a mutant mutant cat holder of the NFT, you have the proportional sort of. I don't know if they let you do voting or not, or if it's just proportional kind of ownership of the mutant cat DAO vault, if you will, of cool cats and Fidenza and so forth, and so then that adds value. I think more of the ones that maybe are more concerning are the DAOs that aren't just doing it as an NFT based one, and you stake your mutant cat to earn what is it, fish. You earn fish, which is a token, and then that fish token is where the DAO ownership comes in. That when you start introducing the token in addition to the NFT, if it's just the NFT, it's one thing, and that's obviously completely fine. But I think where it becomes the gray area is when you introduce the token. And now you have this token, then you can also get liquidity on your token through like juicebox.money or whatever, or fractionalize it. And now the token's tradable on Uniswap. And so what does this token tie to? And when the token's in the form of an NFT, there's not really the concern, or at least the scrutiny right now. But it's some of these projects, and like I said, zombie toads and mutant cats I think the mutant cat floor is like 2 ETH or something. It just launched, I think it was 3 weeks ago at 0.05. And so, it doesn't seem to be bothered by this, but I think Nighthawk brings up a very important point and something that for us, we're very cognizant of, right? We want to operate within parameters. We want to follow the rules essentially. We want to be pioneers and cowboys and so forth, but you've got to innovate within boundaries or else you get shut down, right? There's a lot of folks saw it in the crypto space over the last few years. And so it's very important, I think, to be following along with that, where that's at. And for us, it's very easy to adjust the approach. Like there's amongst the different things that we want to do. And if we don't end up doing a coin or a token because it's too much in the gray area, that's fine, right? You have your DAO voting and governance just based off of however many crypto whales you own proportionally. And that works. We don't need the extras, although it would be fun. And I think we like to innovate, and especially coming from DeFi space.
Have some fun names in mind if we do a token. There's some really cool ones to play off the whale concept. Yeah. All right.
See where it goes. Okay. Yeah. I do want to mention one thing Medici earlier was saying, finding the diamond in the rough. And I think it's not always about finding the diamond, something that looks super shiny. It's about finding the people who can shape what they have into a diamond.
Yeah. That's much better. a very generalized expression, but I like how you say it better, right? You're trying to find the people that are, creating the infrastructure of the diamond mine, so to speak, and have a lot of domain expertise. They're gemologists, and So I think my analogy is not the best, because by the time it's a diamond, everyone's already attracted to it, right? So I appreciate that. I think that's a very good point.
Yeah, you got to find the right lump of coal there.
There you go. You got to find the lump of coal. That's right. In the diamond line to be.
Yeah. About the shaper, I suppose. Should we take any, I guess, questions that people have in chat, or did you have questions that you want us to answer that about the project that maybe we didn't before we wrap up? Or
I think y'all answered all my questions. If anybody in the chat has any questions, feel free to post those, and we can.
Oh wow, that's funny. If you're a fat enough whale, you can sit on a lump of coal and turn it to a diamond.
It's not always wrong.
Nice. Well, hey, let's see. Yeah, we'd love to, even if it doesn't have to be about the Crypto Whale Club. It could be just about NFTs in general, DeFi. What's the difference between staking and yield farming, or liquidity mining, or whatever, cryptos in general. What do you guys think about the markets? I mean, we're very open to answering any questions if you guys have any specific interest
about the space. Yeah, for sure.
Maybe we could have y'all on again also, probably closer to the sale. Maybe we get some more questions as people
and also
do their own research, like what we're telling them to do.
Exactly. Join the Discord, poke around the channels, ask us questions in the Discord. But I think it's probably worth mentioning, we also do a weekly crypto chat in the Crypto Whale Club Discord, and we also do a weekly NFT chat where whoever wants to join joins. We talk about what projects we're looking at. We talk about how to evaluate projects, that kind of thing. And then same with crypto, what people are eyeing up for that week, why they're interested in that specific coin, etc. So
we try to split it half and half, right? So half of it is like a expert and maybe shows some TA tools and some charting techniques, and talks about Bollinger Bands or RSI or whatever, right? Different technical indicators and charting you do. And then the other half of it, we want to have people ask questions, people share knowledge. So it's kind of the open forum collaborative type. But then there's also a specific knowledge share that we want to try to have someone really like it'd be great if we got Will Clemente to come in and do technical analysis, right? That'd be the ultimate goal, I think, for us. But as of right now, we do have actually some guys that have been in Bitcoin for basically a decade almost. Guys that have been early in the NFT space as creators as well as collectors, early in the crypto space as traders and investors. So we got some really reputable, kind of recognized people and that have a lot of knowledge to share, I think, in our Discord. So yes.
Also, I always enjoy hearing just the personal stories of how different people got into NFTs or crypto and what they found interesting. And so, yeah, I do think there's a definitely space to share that kind of stuff as well.
Yeah. Wait, so should we drop the Discord link? I don't know if I can chat in this chat or not, but we could put a Discord link into the Crypto Whale Club if any of you guys want to come check it out and join us. We're still small. I think there's 1,200 of us, but we only started it a few weeks ago. And for us, we're just starting to ramp things up. We're going to start doing some more, actually reaching out to some of the bigger collectors we know here next week as we get closer.
I'll make sure it doesn't expire, the one that I'm posting.
Hey, I'll give you I'll DM you our vanity link. There's it's actually pretty easy. Discord.gg. Oh, you grabbed it. You can grab it off the Twitter too.
It's just /Crypto Whale Club, right?
Yeah.
The GG, or whatever Discord is.
Yeah, I'll just send it over. But yeah, discord.gg /Crypto Whale Club.
Website should be going. We should be getting the website up by end of this weekend, Monday morning probably. We've been having some fun creating that and kind of a cool underwater Atlantis. And so we also have that. We didn't get into it in some of the lore, but we have this Atlantean kind of theme. And I think you guys are probably familiar with like the lost city of Atlantis. It's underwater, right? And so the whole backstory in the lore is these crypto whales are Atlanteans that have been living in the city of Atlantis, like hidden from us underwater. And they're emerging now. They did emerge to bring us essentially to introduce blockchain technology and decentralization and DeFi and all this great stuff that is needed, and to take down disintermediate the big banks and to us this is the creator maker generation and the peer-to-peer type era, right? With the from Uber and Airbnb starting it with that initial manifestation to now blockchain and DeFi, and it's just like I don't need to go to a bank anymore to earn interest. Actually, if I go to a bank, I'm stupid, because if I'm investing in bonds right now of any big country, they're all just printing money. I mean, in 2 years, 3 years, those are going to be worth half as much because of the purchasing power decline, with double the interest rates from where they're rock bottom right now. So, you shouldn't be you go to the central governments. You shouldn't be going to the banks. You can get much higher interest rates on peer-to-peer and DeFi. And
what did we see? What was the one that
on your assets?
What was the one that just released staking here? Cartesi, earlier this week or last week, and they're doing like 66% interest on 90-day periods. Interesting one to check out. Do your own research. But really quick before we sign off, I did just want to mention. I suppose we probably should that we're doing our first team AMA in our Discord tomorrow at 5 p.m. Pacific, and then we're doing a trivia day contest at 1 p.m. Pacific on Saturday. If anyone wanted to join, would love to have you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sounds cool. I'm gonna try to make the one tomorrow. I'm not sure about Saturday, but
we the crypto talk we already did this week. It was yesterday, but we like Nighthawk said, weekly. Just kind of, and sometimes we deep dive into specific ones, sometimes just the market in general. Like yesterday, literally, as it was starting to happen, we were talking live as, we started seeing the shift, where Bitcoin hit 50% and started shifting, people started shifting into the big alts. And it's pretty cool, actually, as we watched it live happen, because these moves happen pretty quickly often. And they happen, a lot of them are auto-triggered at certain, I guess, supposedly important technicals, right? That in the crypto markets are very highly correlated. They actually do happen the way they're supposed to happen versus other asset classes and markets, like let's say stocks, certain stock market industries, or not as much, so not as accurate. I think the crypto people were all very quantitatively driven and math type people, so it's get a better correlation on it.
Well, and the Fed isn't influencing.
Right, you don't have the hedge funds. How do we say?
Currying
things. Yeah. Like, I mean, I don't know if you guys saw, but like each time the hedge funds were getting short squeezed by like Wall Street bets guys, like you'd see the Fed or the Fed. Well, that was one time, but or like Janet Yellen, or you'd have like whoever else would come out and say, "Oh, the inflation's so scary," and then the markets would crash down, the short squeezes would be alleviated. Or anyway, it's just there's some. Not making any but
speaking of not putting a target on our back.
Out there. Pretty crazy.
Speaking of not putting a target on our back, let's not dive too deep into that stuff.
Yeah, I think it's pretty well known, man. It's ridiculous.
All right. Well, hey, thank you so much for having us on, Sam. Appreciate it.
And yeah, I enjoyed just talking about like crypto in general with y'all.
Yeah, I kind of went all over the place there, and yeah, I had.
It's fun though.
Yeah.
I'd be curious if any new games, blockchain games, come across your radar that you think have a lot of potential and are, like we said, they're not launched yet. They're the team looking for the lumps of coal to start crafting into a diamond. I think it's a very interesting space, and gaming is one. Like if you look at the virtual worlds, like I think Sandbox is doing a good job with their fun and with interactivity over games. That's usually an early adopter type activity that gets some good interaction. So I'm curious to follow along. There's some magazine that has like a weekly or monthly report of new ones to watch. But yeah, I'd love to hear if you see any that you're excited about.
Yeah, I'll
Tip us off so we can
yeah,
check
I'm gonna look through some of the ones I've been wanting to look at, and probably bring some of them to the AMA.
Yeah, and
Wow.
I mean, if any of them you can like jump on and play around with, like Sandbox, I really like it, even though they took longer. Their launch has been taking a while here for the public release, so it took longer than it was supposed to be. You could still go through their game maker and actually play around, or the item creator, but play around through the game creator, play around with a bunch of like kind of test games that were already put up there by other creators. And so, I like it. I'd love to see a project like not launched yet, but they've got some sort of test net, if you will, or something you kind of play around and, kick the tires and you see, okay, this is actually real. They've actually built something at least versus just nothing like vaporware, right? That alone is a huge hurdle differentiator to get through. So, all right.
Yeah. All right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Thanks for today. Yeah. And I will, I guess, talk to you both tomorrow during the AMA. And you said that's
5 p.m. Pacific. Check out also. We talked about, I think, before the stream started, but check out the Coin Games Dev Squad group. They seem to be doing pretty solid things. So
yeah, I've been looking a bit at that while we've been live.
Yeah, we got some of them in our Discord as well. They came over, and a good group of them. Okay, so we created them a Dev Squad emoticon. That's pretty funny.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, man. Have a good rest of your afternoon. Appreciate having us on.
Yeah, you as well. Thank you.
Okay. Take
Thanks.
care.